My name is Clara Thompson, and I'm just a humble granny, a widow who spent her golden years knitting scarves for the local shelter, baking pies for church fundraisers, and tending a tiny vegetable garden in my backyard cottage. I've got 80 years on this earth, most of them filled with the simple joys of raising a family on a shoestring budget, back when a dollar meant something and love meant everything. My hands are spotted with age. My back aches from years of scrubbing floors as a cleaner to make ends meet after my husband, George, passed from a heart attack in our little Milltown home. But let me tell you, dear listener, life has a way of weaving unexpected patterns into the fabric of our days, turning what seems like a frayed thread into a tapestry of grace. This is my story, one I share with a heart full of reflection and a voice that's seen its share of tears. Before we dive in, thank you for taking the time to hear an old woman's tale. If you're comfortable, drop a comment below. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, pull up a chair, maybe grab a cup of tea, and let's go back to that fateful day in the spring of 2025. It was early May, the kind of day in our quiet suburb of Portland, Oregon, where the cherry blossoms were just starting to fade, leaving pink petals scattered like confetti on the sidewalks. The air had that fresh, earthy scent after a light rain, and the sky was a soft gray, promising more showers, but holding back for the moment. My cottage sat at the end of Elm Street, a modest one-bedroom place with peeling white paint and a front porch swing that creaked like my knees on a cold morning. I'd lived there alone since my son, Daniel, moved out 20 years ago. Daniel had done well for himself, climbed the corporate ladder in tech, married into money, and now lived in a sprawling McMansion up in the hills with his wife, Lorraine, and their 2 kids, my grandbabies, Lily and Max. But oh, how that marriage changed things. Lorraine's family, the Fitzgeralds, were old money, shipping magnates who'd built their fortune generations ago and now lounged in it like cats in the sun. They looked down on me from the start, their noses so high I wondered if they got altitude sickness. It started subtle, like Lorraine's mother, Evelyn, commenting on my quaint home during her one visit. "How darling, Clara! It's like stepping back in time to the Depression era." Her father, Harold, would pat my hand at family dinners and say, "You're a trooper, dear. Not everyone can make do with so little." Daniel, bless his heart, would fidget and change the subject, but he never stood up for me. He'd whisper later, "Mom, they're just teasing. Don't take it personally." But it cut deep, like a dull knife sawing at my pride. My grandkids were the bright spot. Lily, 8, with her gap-toothed smile, and Max, 10, who loved my homemade cookies. But even they were starting to echo the snide remarks. "Grandma, why don't you have a big TV like ours?"
The conflict simmered for years, but it boiled over that spring when the Fitzgeralds threw their annual garden party, a lavish affair in their estate's manicured backyard, complete with white tents, string quartets, and caterers serving tiny appetizers that cost more than my weekly groceries. The invitation came via email this time, not even a card. "Join us for high tea and celebrations." Daniel called to remind me, "Mom, it's important. Lorraine's dad is announcing a big business deal. Wear something nice. Maybe that dress I bought you last Christmas." I knew the subtext. Don't embarrass us. I spent the morning baking a batch of my famous apple pies as a gift. Nothing fancy, just love baked into flaky crusts. As I wrapped them in foil, my hands trembled a bit. Arthritis was setting in, but I pushed through. The party was at 2 p.m., and I set out on foot. The bus stop was a mile away, and my old bicycle was rusty. The weather held, but clouds gathered like uninvited guests.
That's when the inciting incident happened. About halfway to the bus stop, the road wound through a wooded area, the trees dripping from morning dew, and the air thick with the scent of pine and wet earth. Up ahead, I saw a fancy electric scooter, the kind young folks zip around on, tipped over on the shoulder, its wheel bent at an odd angle. Beside it stood a young woman, maybe in her 30s, dressed in a sharp business suit, her high heels sinking into the mud. She was frantically tapping her phone, but from the frustrated look on her face, no signal. She had long, dark hair tied in a ponytail, and her makeup was impeccable. But her eyes? Oh, they held a panic I recognized from my nursing days long ago, when I'd volunteer at the clinic. My first instinct was to keep walking. I was already running late, and Daniel would fret if I showed up tardy. But something in me, call it granny intuition or just plain human decency, made me stop. "Dear, are you all right?" I called, hobbling over with my pie basket in hand. She looked up, startled, then relieved. "Oh, thank goodness. My scooter's chain popped off and I'm hopeless with mechanics. I'm late for a meeting up in the hills." Her voice was polished, like she'd gone to fancy schools, but there was a vulnerability there. I set down my basket and knelt. Yes, at 80, my knees protested, but I've fixed worse in my time. George had taught me basic repairs on our old car, and a scooter wasn't much different. With my wrinkled hands, I realigned the chain, tightened a bolt with a multi-tool I always carried in my purse, you never know, and wiped the grease on my apron. It took 15 minutes, my breast getting muddied at the hem, my white cardigan smudged. We chatted as I worked. She was Elena Vargas, a CEO of some green tech company, in town for networking. I didn't mention the party, just shared a bit about my grandkids. When it was fixed, she hugged me tightly. "You're a lifesaver, ma'am. How can I thank you?" I waved it off. "Just be kind to the next person who needs it." She insisted on my number, scribbling it down, and zoomed off as I dusted myself off. By the time I caught the bus and arrived at the Fitzgerald estate, it was 2:45. The garden was a vision, blooming roses, crystal glasses clinking, guests in pastel dresses and linen suits milling under the tents. The sun had peeked out, casting a golden haze, but my arrival shattered the perfection. My dress was rumpled, mud on my shoes, grease streaks on my hands I couldn't fully scrub off in the bus restroom. Evelyn spotted me first, her pearl necklace gleaming like judgment. "Clara, good heavens! You look like you've been gardening in a storm." Her laugh was tinkling, but her eyes were steel. Harold joined. "Booming! Rough trip, old girl. We were about to send out a search party, or perhaps a maid." Snickers rippled through nearby guests. Daniel pulled me aside, his face flushed. "Mom, what happened? Lorraine's furious. You know how important this is." Lorraine approached, her designer hat tilted just so. "Clara, honestly, we have standards here. Perhaps you should freshen up, or maybe head home. The kids can visit later." The humiliation burned slow and deep, like embers in my chest. I stood there, pie basket in hand, feeling smaller than my 5-foot frame. The grandkids watched from afar, Lily whispering to Max, their eyes wide. I turned to leave, tears pricking, when the turning point arrived with the sound of a car pulling up the driveway, a sleek black SUV. Out stepped Elena Vargas, now in a fresh blouse, her scooter incident forgotten. But she wasn't just any guest.
As whispers spread, I learned she was the Elena Vargas, founder of EcoForge, a billion-dollar startup revolutionizing renewable energy. Harold had been courting her for that big business deal. He'd bragged about inviting her as the guest of honor. Elena scanned the crowd, her eyes lighting on me. "Clara!" she called, striding over with purpose, ignoring Evelyn's outstretched hand. The garden fell quiet, the string quartet pausing mid-note. "Everyone," Elena announced, her voice clear and commanding. "This woman is why I'm here today. On my way, my scooter broke down in the woods. I was stranded, about to miss this entirely. But Clara stopped, fixed it with her own hands, refused any thanks. She's the epitome of selflessness in a world that's forgotten it." Gasps echoed. Lorraine's face paled. Harold stammered, You know her?" Elena's gaze turned sharp. "Know her? I owe her. And from what I overheard arriving, it seems some here don't value such kindness." The climax unfolded like a thunderclap. Evelyn, recovering, tried to salvage, "Oh, Clara's family. But really, dear, your appearance—" Elena cut her off. "Appearance? This granny's appearance saved the day. While you mock her, she's the one living with true wealth, compassion." The guests murmured agreement, phones out recording. Daniel's eyes widened, shame flickering as he saw me anew. Lorraine whispered furiously to Harold, but it was too late. Elena turned to me, hugging me publicly. "Clara, join me at the head table. And that pie? Let's share it. It's worth more than any catered fluff here." The resolution was swift and sweet. The party shifted. Guests toasted me, sharing stories of their own Clara moments. Harold's deal? Elena signed it, but with a clause donating a portion to local shelters in my name. The Fitzgeralds were exposed, their snobbery the talk of the town for weeks. Evelyn sent flowers with a stiff apology. Lorraine called, tearful, promising change. Daniel visited often now, without pretense, and the grandkids begged for Granny's stories over pies. I even got a community award from Elena's foundation, a small grant to expand my garden into a neighborhood plot. Friends, the moral is this. In a world chasing gold, true wealth blooms from kindness. Humility isn't weakness, it's the soil where hope grows. One small act can flip the script, shaming the proud and lifting the lowly. Thank you for listening. Before we wrap up, share your own story of kindness in the comments. It might inspire someone. Take care and remember, be the granny who stops to help.